August is the month most gardeners waste. You look at tired summer vines and think the season is over, but experts know that seeds planted right now yield the most delicious harvest of the year. Today, I will show you exactly which vegetables to start in August for a crisp autumn garden, plus a simple burlap trick to protect them. Let's start with a resilient root crop. Carrots are traditionally viewed as a spring vegetable. However, those planted in August yield a much better flavor. When temperatures drop in October, the plant responds to the cold by converting stored starches into natural sugars. This survival mechanism prevents the cells from freezing, and for you, it means a sweeter, crisper root than anything pulled in June. The main obstacle with planting them now is the late summer heat. Carrot seeds require the top layer of soil to remain consistently moist to germinate. A hot August afternoon can bake that surface dry in hours. To solve this, press the seeds into damp soil, then lay a piece of burlap or a wooden board directly over the row. This holds surface moisture through the heat of the day. Check underneath every morning, and the moment you see tiny sprouts, remove the covering. For container gardening, seek out Danvers or Knott varieties. They are shorter and stockier, allowing them to push through average potting soil without needing perfectly deep channels. Kale has a dramatic relationship with the cold. Similar to carrots, a hard freeze triggers a starch to sugar conversion. The leaves harvested in November after several frost events are genuinely a different food than the tough versions produced in the summer heat. Farmers market vendors and restaurant chefs actively seek out this autumn harvest, and it is the reason why the kale stalls are often sold out early on Saturday mornings in October. Seeds go into the dirt now. The plants establish themselves through September, and by October, the frost begins doing the work. Latinato, often called dinosaur kale, and red Russian are highly recommended for their fall quality. When harvesting, snap off the outer leaves and leave the center intact. One plant will keep producing through November, and in milder zones, well into January. Before we discuss the next group of plants, your containers need a quick reset. Your summer tomatoes and cucumbers depleted the soil nutrients, but you do not need to replace the dirt. Simply pull out the spent plants and loosen the top 2 inches of the surface with a hand trowel. Then add a light layer of fresh compost or an organic granular vegetable fertilizer. You do not even have to dig it deeply. Every time you water, those fresh nutrients will wash down into the root zone, providing a strong foundation for your new seeds. Now let us look at a leafy green that actively fights against the August heat. Lettuce can be frustrating if planted in the peak of summer, often bolting and flooding the leaves with bitterness within days. However, August planting offers a reliable second chance. The primary challenge is germination. Lettuce seed has a built-in defense mechanism called thermodormancy. If the soil temperature is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the seed refuses to sprout, protecting itself from drying out. This explains why midsummer plantings often fail completely. To fix this, sow your seeds in a spot that receives afternoon shade. Water the bed thoroughly to lower the soil temperature. If you are using raised beds, drape a light cloth over the seeded area for the first 5 to 7 days. Once the seedlings reach 2 inches tall, they can handle the remaining warmth. By the time they reach harvest size in September, the cooling air prevents the bitter taste from developing. Look for packets labeled slow bolt or heat tolerant at your local garden center to ensure a long harvest window. If you enjoyed outsmarting lettuce, this next green operates on a very similar biological clock. Spring spinach is typically a race against the calendar. The moment days get longer and temperatures rise, the plant sends up a flower stalk and the harvest is over. August planting completely reverses this stressful cycle. You put the seeds in the ground while the soil is still warm, prompting fast germination in 5 to 7 days. The plant establishes its root system in the lingering summer heat. Then, as fall arrives, the temperatures drop into the cool range that spinach is naturally adapted to. The leaves that grow in October are tender and deeply flavored. If you live in a hot climate, wait until the second half of August to plant, as soil above 85 degrees will inhibit sprouting. Choose Bloomsdale Long-Standing to resist bolting. Harvest the outside leaves first, and the center will generate continuous fresh growth for weeks. We have covered leafy greens, but what if you want something much faster? Radishes are ready in less than a month. Most people associate them with spring, but planting them early in the year means they must race against warming temperatures. If they mature in the heat, the root goes hollow, pithy, and aggressively sharp. August radishes enjoy the exact opposite conditions. The seeds germinate in warm soil within 4 to 5 days. As the root matures, the days grow shorter and cooler, resulting in a crisp, bright, mildly spicy flavor. Many varieties reach harvest size in 22 to 28 days. Plant a small row every 10 days from now through mid-September for a continuous supply. The golden rule with radishes is to pull them on schedule. Left in the dirt past their window, they become woody within days. Fast crops are great, but the next vegetable actually gives you two distinct harvests from a single seed. Most gardeners view beets purely as a root crop. However, the leafy green tops are fully edible and ready to harvest from 30 days onward. They taste like a mild, slightly earthy spinach. You can trim a few outer leaves to saute with garlic and olive oil while leaving the plant to continue growing. The actual roots follow at 55 to 70 days, sizing up in October. Just like carrots, the cold weather sweetens the beetroot significantly compared to a spring harvest. Pull them when the shoulder of the root, visible at the soil surface, is 2 to 3 inches across. Any larger and the texture declines. For a visually striking option, look for the Chioggia variety. Slicing them open reveals concentric pink and white rings that look like modern art on your cutting board. If the double harvest of beets caught your attention, you will appreciate how this next root vegetable transforms when grown in the fall. Turnips are often dismissed because people associate them with the large, fibrous, and sharp-tasting storage roots sold in winter. A fresh autumn turnip is a completely different experience. Sown in August and maturing in October, it is mild, crisp, and sweet enough to eat raw like an apple. Similar to beets, turnip greens provide a first harvest. The tops are edible from 30 days onward, providing a nutritious, slightly peppery cooking green weeks before the roots mature. The variety that changes the most minds is hakure, a Japanese salad turnip. It produces small, smooth, pure white globes. Pull them from the soil when they are the size of a golf ball, roughly 2 inches across. Waiting too long will sacrifice their delicate texture. One planting yields a cooking green and a raw snacking vegetable in just 6 weeks. Now, as we look to make gardening easier, wouldn't it be nice to gather food without ever pulling up a root? Scallions, also known as green onions, are perhaps the most practical crop for a fall garden. Having fresh green onions growing just steps from your kitchen door on demand from late September through November is one of those small things that makes home gardening feel genuinely worth it every day. You can use them to garnish eggs, toss them into salads, or stir them into soup. Seeds planted now will sprout in 7 to 10 days and reach maturity in roughly 60 days. To multiply your yield, never pull the whole plant out of the dirt. Take a pair of kitchen scissors and snip the green tops about an inch above the soil surface, leaving the white bulb undisturbed in the ground. The plant will push out new green tops, ready to harvest again in 10 to 14 days. A single August planting provides multiple cuttings before the season closes, all from a tiny 6-inch strip along the edge of any garden bed. Scallions are not the only plant that responds well to a simple haircut. Arugula thrives with the exact same scissor method. This is the fastest salad green on the list, typically ready in 21 to 25 days. Arugula grown in the fall produces a gentler, more balanced flavor than summer crops. The peppery bite that can overwhelm a dish in hot weather softens significantly as temperatures drop, leaving a clean, nutty taste that works perfectly in salads or scattered over a hot pizza. The most common mistake is letting the leaves grow too large. At 2 to 3 inches long, it is mild. At 5 or 6 inches, it becomes intensely bitter. Harvest it small by cutting an inch above the soil, and new growth will return in 10 to 12 days. Plant a small patch today and another in 2 weeks for continuous fresh salads right through October. If you like bold flavors, our next plant is famous for its spicy kick, but late summer planting completely changes its profile. Mustard greens mature from seed in 30 to 40 days. Most people know them in a traditional southern context, slow cooked with smoked meat until rich and deeply savory. However, young mustard greens harvested in September are excellent eaten raw. The crucial timing tip is to plant them in the second half of August. If grown entirely in full summer heat, the leaves develop an aggressively sharp taste that is too intense for most palates. Planting later allows the root system to establish in the warm weeks, while the leaves mature as September cools down. This cooler environment brings out a balance of mild spice and sweetness. Harvest the young outer leaves and let the center continue growing for multiple cuttings. Let us step away from the familiar greens and look at something often overlooked yet highly rewarding. Bok choy is a staple in Chinese-American cooking, known for its crisp white stem and dark green leaf. Growing your own produces a crunch and natural sweetness that fades quickly in store-bought versions. Baby varieties are ready in just 30 days, while full-size types take 45 to 60 days. For a successful late summer start, bok choy requires shade and moisture. The seeds struggle to germinate when the soil is above 80 degrees. Plant them in a shaded corner and water consistently. Once past the seedling stage, bok choy grows rapidly in the crisp autumn air. The cool weather maturation results in a fundamentally different, much sweeter taste than any batch grown in the heat of early summer. If you want something even more unique, this next plant looks a bit like an alien spaceship, but it requires almost zero effort. Kohlrabi features a round, swollen stem that sits right on top of the soil, with leaves shooting out in all directions. Because of its unusual appearance, shoppers assume it is complicated to prepare. It is not. You simply peel the tough outer skin, slice the crisp white interior, and eat it raw. The flavor sits somewhere between a broccoli stem and a crisp apple. It also roasts exceptionally well, developing a mild nuttiness. It matures in 45 to 60 days and prefers to size up in September. Harvest the bulb when it is 2 to 3 inches across. Allowing it to grow larger turns the texture woody and pithy. White Vienna and purple Vienna taste identical, but the purple variety adds great visual contrast to your garden. Speaking of vegetables with unfair reputations, our next choice is often considered difficult, but that is only because most people planted in the wrong season. Broccoli has a major timing problem in the spring. Gardeners plant it, and as it tries to head, the summer heat forces it to bolt, turn yellow, and flower. The secret is that broccoli simply needs to mature in cool air. Starting seeds indoors now gives you transplant-ready seedlings in 3 to 4 weeks. Setting them out in late August means their heads will develop in the 55-degree air of October. The cold tightens the green heads and concentrates the flavor. Look for Bella, Calibracy, or any packet labeled 60 to 70 days. After cutting the main central head, do not uproot the stalk. Side shoots will develop from the base and leaf axils for weeks, providing a secondary harvest of smaller, equally flavorful florets well into November. While broccoli demands cold, our next vegetable is an absolute champion that happily tolerates both the intense heat of August and the freezing frosts of November. Swiss chard does not bolt in the summer like spinach, nor does it quit after the first freeze. It just keeps growing, and many gardeners harvest it right into December. A single plant gives you 2 distinct culinary ingredients. The large, crinkly leaves cook rapidly in a hot pan, wilting in under 2 minutes. The thick, celery-like stems require 4 to 5 minutes to soften. When cooking, separate them, start the stems in the pan first, and toss the leaves in at the end. The bright lights or rainbow variety produces stems in brilliant shades of red, orange, yellow, and white, making it one of the most visually striking options for a fall container garden. Finally, we have the toughest leafy green available for a home garden, capable of surviving well into the winter months. Collard greens are hardier than chard and more cold-tolerant than kale. In milder zones, plants started in August will produce right through the winter. The first frost does not end their season, it improves it. The cold triggers a pronounced starch-to-sugar conversion. A leaf that tastes slightly bitter in September transforms into something rich, sweet, and deeply savory after a hard November freeze. Space the plants 18 inches apart as they grow quite large. Harvest the lower outer leaves first, and the plant will continue growing upward from the center stem for months. Even in colder northern zones, a hard freeze will eventually end the season, but you will still get 2 to 3 solid months of top-tier greens. August is not the end of the gardening season. It is the beginning of the most productive part of it. The plants going into the ground right now will give you a real harvest in September, October, and November, when everyone else's garden feels finished. Choose the fastest crop on this list, grab a packet of scallion or radish seeds, and put them in the soil today. You will be amazed at what the autumn weather can do for your plates. Drop a comment below with your climate zone and tell us which plant you are starting first. Someone gardening in your exact climate is reading those answers right now, and sharing your experience helps the whole community. Subscribe for more seasonal guidance, and happy planting.